Sometimes I wish I could take back the moment I gave you my number, not because I regret meeting you, but because I regret giving you access to a part of me that I now realize you didn't value. I thought that giving you my number was an opportunity for something new, something exciting, but now all I feel is the weight of having allowed someone in who didn't truly see me. The worst part isn't that you left, but that I handed you my number, my trust, and a piece of my heart, expecting something different than what I got. I never imagined that the simple act of sharing my number could turn into something so painful. It was meant to be an opening, but now it feels like I just opened the door to regret. I gave you my number, thinking it would lead to laughter, connection, and shared moments. Instead, it feels like I handed you a key to disappointment and emotional distance. The regret doesn't come from giving you my number, but from giving you more of myself than you ever intended to take. I should have known better, but I trusted my instincts. I thought that by sharing my number with you, I was offering you a chance to know me better, but all I ended up doing was giving you the opportunity to walk away. Sometimes I wish I could erase that moment when I handed you my number. I didn't know that one small gesture would be the beginning of so much uncertainty. It's not the number I regret sharing, but the trust I placed in you. If only I had seen sooner that you didn't deserve it. Regret isn't just about giving you my number. It's about realizing how easily I gave away a piece of me to someone who never understood its value. I thought giving you my number was the start of something meaningful, but instead it became the first chapter of a story I wish I could rewrite. I didn't know that sharing my number would mean letting you into a part of my life that you would ultimately discard without a second thought. I regret giving you my number, not because you hurt me, but because I trusted you with more than you ever deserved. In hindsight, giving you my number was the start of something that wasn't right for me. If I had known how things would unfold, I would have never shared that piece of myself. The more I reflect on it, the more I realize that giving you my number wasn't just about sharing my contact information. It was about letting you into my emotional world. Sometimes I feel foolish for giving you my number. I thought it would open the door to something meaningful, but now I see it only opened the door to a journey I never should have taken. I regret giving you my number, not because you used it to reach out, but because you never truly reached out to understand who I really am. When I gave you my number, I was hopeful for what could be. Now I realize that hope was misplaced, and the regret I feel is a reflection of that. The day I gave you my number, I thought I was making connection, but now all I feel is the emptiness of having given a part of myself to someone who didn't cherish it. Regret isn't always about what we do. Sometimes it's about who we allow in and the moments we share with people who don't value us the way we deserve. I regret giving you my number because it was the moment I let myself believe in something that wasn't real. And now I'm left picking up the pieces of that illusion. It's strange how a simple act like giving someone your number can turn into something so regretful. But in my heart, I know it wasn't just the number. It was the trust I placed in you. In the end, I didn't regret giving you my number as much as I regretted the expectations I placed on you and the emotional investment I gave without knowing your true intentions. I gave you my number with the belief that it would lead to something real, but all it led to was the realization that I had shared my time and energy with someone who never saw me for who I am. If I could go back, I wouldn't change giving you my number, but I would have changed my expectations. I would have known better than to think that sharing something so personal would bring anything good. The regret of giving you my number doesn't stem from the fact that we talked. It stems from the fact that I gave you access to my world, and you never took the time to appreciate it. I regret giving you my number because it was the first step in allowing someone to walk away without ever truly understanding what they had. Sometimes regret is just a lesson in disguise. I gave you my number because I was hopeful, but now I see that hope wasn't enough. It's not the regret of giving you my number that weighs on me. It's the regret of not seeing the signs sooner, of not realizing that what I gave you wasn't worth the empty response. Looking back, I realize the regret of giving you my number isn't about the act itself. It's about the moments that followed, the silence, and the realization that I was the only one invested. I thought I was being open and vulnerable when I gave you my number, but now I see that vulnerability was wasted on someone who never truly cared to know me. I regret giving you my number because it was the first time I allowed myself to believe that something meaningful could come from a simple gesture. Now, I wish I had known better. It's not the regret of giving you my number. It's the regret of trusting someone who never really understood what it meant. Sometimes it's hard to accept that the simple act of sharing your number can lead to such an emotional roller coaster. But in hindsight, I know I should have protected my heart better. I gave you my number thinking it would lead to something beautiful. But now I realize that I only set myself up for disappointment. Regret doesn't come from giving you my number. It comes from realizing that I didn't see my worth in the way I should have, and now I'm left questioning why I trusted you. I gave you my number with the hope that you would see me for who I am, but all I've come to realize is that some people aren't worth the energy it takes to even share a number with. Sometimes it's hard to admit that I regret giving you my number, but the truth is, I didn't just give you my number. I gave you a piece of my heart that you didn't care to protect. I regret giving you my number, not because I expect you to be perfect, but because I never thought that someone would take my vulnerability for granted. I regret giving you my number because I thought it was the beginning of something special, but now it's a painful reminder of how misplaced my trust was. When I gave you my number, I was hoping for a connection, but instead, I got a reminder that not everyone who asks for your number is worth the time. I regret giving you my number because, in hindsight, I realize I owe too much of myself to someone who didn't care to give anything back. It's hard to accept, but I regret giving you my number because it allowed you to walk in and out of my life without ever really staying. The regret I feel for giving you my number is not about the time wasted, but about the emotional energy that I invested in someone who never truly cared. I gave you my number, thinking it would lead to something that mattered, but instead, it only led to an emotional dead end. The regret I feel now isn't about the number itself. It's the realization that I gave you something precious and you never valued it. I regret giving you my number because, in doing so, I gave you a key to my world, and you simply never bothered to open the door. I thought that giving you my number was the start of something beautiful, but now I see it was just the beginning of an emotional journey I wish I never embarked on. Sometimes, the biggest regret isn't about what you've done, but about what you allowed someone to do with what you gave them. I regret giving you my number because you took it and walked away. I thought sharing my number was an act of kindness and openness, but now all I feel is the coldness of having shared it with someone who didn't appreciate it. The regret I feel for giving you my number isn't just about losing something, it's about realizing that I never got what I deserved in return. In the end, giving you my number wasn't about the connection we could have shared, but about the moments I wish I could take back because of how little they meant. I regret giving you my number, not because you didn't reach out enough, but because I realized you never really understood what it meant to be present when you do. I thought giving you my number was the first step toward something real, but now it's the first step toward realizing I was never truly seen. I regret giving you my number because it allowed you access to a part of my life that you never took the time to value. And I have learned that not everyone deserves that privilege. It wasn't just the number I regret sharing with you. It was the trust, the hope, and the peace of my heart that I thought you might care for. When I gave you my number, I thought it was a gesture that would bring us closer. Now, all I feel is the distance that grew between us after that moment. I regret giving you my number because it was an act of vulnerability. And I see now that vulnerability should only be shared with those who honor it. Giving you my number felt like opening a door, but instead of walking through it together, you left it wide open and walked away. I regret giving you my number because it was a moment of hope, and now it's just a painful reminder that hope doesn't always lead to the results we expect.